You know what? I've got a feeling. And maybe it's nothing, maybe it's just the classic MMA gut instinct that we all get when something feels a little too quiet before fight night. But I just can't shake this thought that maybe, just maybe, Dustin Poirier's fight against Max Holloway at UFC 318 might not be the final chapter we've been led up to believe it is. Because we've seen this same thing before. We saw it right before he fought off against Islam Makhachev, that, the whole buildup was laced with retirement talk left and right. The idea that this was supposed to be the last dance, the final ride. And yet, once Dustin the Diamond realized that he can still hang with the lightweight champion, with the pound-for-pound #1 in the world, everything shifted. The fire was still there, the hands were still fast, and the mind was still sharp. And now, the UFC are giving him a hometown headliner, a pay-per-view main event in New Orleans, Louisiana. Not just a farewell, but a celebration. But what if instead of a tearful goodbye, Dustin the Diamond Poirier goes out there, puts on a performance of a lifetime, and decides that he's not done yet? What if he shocks the world by not just beating Max Blessed Holloway, but by calling out the king himself, Ilia El Matador Topuria? That's the discussion that we've got to have, and not about what's likely, but about what could happen. And in the wild world of MMA, those two things aren't always the same. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share so you can help me reach 3,000 subscribers by May. I'll deeply appreciate you, and make sure you join the official UFC Discord, link in the description. Alright, so look, I want you to close your eyes and dream with me for a second. It's UFC 318 in New Orleans, Louisiana. The energy's electric, and not just because of the stakes involved, but because it's his night. Dustin the Diamond Poirier fighting in front of his people in what has been billed as his last dance. The storybook ending, the retirement fight. That's the narrative going into this fight this Saturday night. But what if it's not the end? What if the same thing happens that happened during UFC 302, when he teased retirement against Islam Makhachev, only to go out there, fight well, prove to himself that he still got something left in the tank, and quietly change the narrative? I mean, just imagine this. Dustin the Diamond comes out looking sharp, focused, fast, and within 2 rounds, he does what many doubted he could. He knocks out Max Holloway stiff and unconscious. The building explodes and the New Orleans crowd is in an absolute frenzy. This was supposed to be the final act, the perfect ending, and then Joe Rogan steps into the octagon with a hot mic and says, "What a way to end your career." But instead of a tearful goodbye, Dustin Poirier smiles and says, "I can think of one better. Give me Ilia El Matador Topuria." I mean, shit, it might sound insane at first, but it ain't entirely unrealistic. In fact, given the current landscape of the lightweight division, it's actually pretty plausible at this point in time. I mean, right now, there's this strange vacuum at the top of 155. Arman Tsarukyan is the most deserving contender by far, but Dana White has made it abundantly clear that Arman just isn't getting the next shot. Whether it's due to marketing, timing, or the UFC 311 drama, Arman Tsarukyan's just not getting the next shot. At least not quite yet. Justin Gaethje, on the other hand, well, he not too long ago got viciously knocked out by Max Blessed, who could be the same man that Dustin Poirier could be defeating this weekend. So it'll kind of be hard to justify putting him ahead of Dustin the Diamond. And as for Paddy the Baddy, I mean, come on. We all know that fight would be about money and star power and not about merit or rankings. So if Dustin the Diamond comes out, looks great, and makes a bona fide statement, then there could be a real, albeit small, window for him to skip the line. And sure, it would be ridiculous in terms of merit, but we've seen the UFC make crazier matchups for far less. And, when you factor in that Dustin the Diamond would be calling out the guy, the champ, the pound-for-pound king, as well as the face of two separate weight divisions in Ilia Topuria, suddenly it becomes headline main event material. Who knows? Stylistically though, this fight should be a pretty fascinating one. I mean, Dustin Poirier is a clean technical boxer with some strong but also measured jiu-jitsu, and while he's not on the submission threat level as a Charles Oliveira Charles do Bronx, who we did just see get dismantled by Ilia Topuria, he's a lot more dangerous in the boxing pocket. I mean, he's controlled in the brawls, seasoned in the chaos, and is definitely capable of dragging anyone into deep waters. I mean, ask Islam Makhachev how his face is doing. And that's something that we haven't seen Ilia Topuria tested in just quite yet. Ilia thrives on the pressure, but against someone like a Dustin Poirier, who doesn't necessarily fold under that pressure, who has been through those 5-round wars and who can punch in the pocket with real power, things can get really interesting pretty fast. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because the reality is that Dustin Poirier just doesn't deserve this title shot. I mean, at least not based on rankings or current resume at least. And if Ilia Topuria were to take this fight, then it would absolutely feed into the growing narrative that he hasn't faced anyone at the tippity top of their primes yet. I mean, a win over Dustin Poirier on paper would be massive. A legendary name as well as a future Hall of Famer on the resume. But, to the hardcore fans, it might feel like, some smoke and mirrors. Just another legacy layup and not an actual current contender. Then again, this is the fighting business and timing matters more than logic sometimes. Dustin Poirier also knows that, he's nearing the end of his career, and he's not just going to sit around for a certain period of time just to wait in line for guys like an Arman Tsarukyan, a Justin Gaethje, as well as a Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, who already receives their title shots in order for him to receive his. And so if he wants another shot at undisputed gold, then it has to happen now. And as for Ilia Topuria, a win over Dustin Poirier could further cement his superstardom, especially if it comes right after dismantling Charles Oliveira Charles do Bronx. Still though, there's a deeper issue here. The one that fans keep circling back to, and it's how many times can Dustin Poirier threaten to retire, perform well enough to reconsider, and then walk it all back? I mean, at a certain point in time, the story kind of starts to feel like a loop. The last dance can only happen so many times before people stop buying tickets. And if he goes out there, gets a massive win over Max Blessed, and then throws his name right back into the title conversation, it'll be met with some excitement for sure, but it'll also be met with, a few raised eyebrows or two, you know what I mean? Though, at the end of the day, this scenario kind of feels a little too far-fetched, but not impossible. I mean, MMA is a sport where chaos often becomes reality all the time, and if things break off the right way, if Dustin Poirier has the performance of a lifetime and, feels that spark again, then who's to say that he won't make one last push? I mean, maybe he really believes that he can beat Ilia El Matador Topuria. Maybe he thinks that this is the final chapter, or maybe, just maybe, he's not ready to close the book just quite yet. But that's all I've got to say for this video. Let me know in the comment section below. What are your guys' thoughts on this hypothetical scenario that I made about if Dustin the Diamond goes out there this weekend and has a flawless performance against Max Blessed, can he maybe call out for a potential shot against the pound-for-pound king in Ilia Topuria? Who knows? But let me know in the comment section below. But that about wraps up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.